Should you push customers to raise prices? Okay, so here's I'm not going to just across the board say yes, okay, because I don't want you just to go raise prices. You do it poorly, you lose a bunch of customers, then you're really pissed off at me because you're like, hey, I did what you told me to do, and they all quit. I don't think they'll all quit either, but you could push them away if you do it like stupidly or sloppily, and you just kind of, hey, we're raising prices. So here's the way you got to think about it. Okay. First and foremost, you've got to understand the profitability by client. And there's a process to this. We do have sessions up on the dashboard that talk about this in MSP launch. It's one of the things in Rapid that we talk about. So if you are a MSP launch customer, if you are a accelerators or producers club member, we have sessions and spreadsheets and process so that you can figure out what is your profitability by client. So you have to figure that out first. And the reason I say that is what you will find is you'll find that you're like, if you just look at your business and you say, okay, and we're generating, let's say you're generating the average profit margin now for an MSP is 9%. Okay. That's not good, by the way. That's the average. Best in class, 18% net profitability or higher. And I'm not talking about including your salary, just to be clear. Your salary is not profit. Your salary is your salary. Your profit is what's left over after you pay yourself a fair market salary. Okay. So if you look at your business as a whole and you say, well, shoot, we're only at 5% profitability, or we're only at 9% profitability, or whatever it is, just saying, well, we just need to raise prices across the board. I mean, maybe that's true, but if you really get into looking at each client and their profitability, what you will typically find is there are some clients that are just fine. They're profitable, and you don't have to go raise their rates. Like, don't go poke the bear if it's not necessary. Their gross margin on services is you're getting like a 65% gross margin on services, hardware, software. Obviously, you're going to have different. So maybe you're going to have a blended gross margin of about 50% and minimum of 50% gross margin on those clients. You don't have to raise their prices just yet. So again, don't poke the bear unless it's necessary. Then you're going to be looking at some clients, and you're going to find out there are some clients that you are doing work for free, or you're even paying them because it's costing you more to deliver the services than you're getting paid. Those clients, yes, you need to raise your prices on them or fire them because they're sucking eggs. You are doing work for free, or you're paying your client to do work because you're paying engineers, you're paying for tools, you're delivering those services, and they're net negative. On those clients, you shouldn't be worried about firing them and going away. You're going to have to go back and raise prices. Now, the problem's going to be if you're that unprofitable with that client, raising their prices is going to probably be at least a 20% lift. It's going to be significant, or I mean, it could be less, but it's going to be a significant lift. Okay. Those clients, you should have no problem, no qualms, no emotional baggage around raising their prices. Okay. So when you're saying, how should I push a customer to raise prices? I can't just say across the board, here's what you do. I think you got to know what clients are profitable and which ones aren't first. The ones that are not profitable, where you're losing money. If you're getting 38%, 40% service gross margin, and there's clients where you're only making 2% net profit on, the thing is, there's an emotional component to what you're thinking. You're going to yourself, well, if I raise prices, they're going to get mad at me, which, okay, no client loves it. They're not going to like buy you a gift for raising prices. I mean, no client's going to applaud you for that. I mean, no one's excited about that. The question is whether or not are you raising prices in a reasonable manner, meaning you're not just arbitrarily doing it. Are you doing it because it's necessary, meaning, hey, it's costing me a lot of money to service you. So yeah, for those that are not profitable, yes, you got to sit down with them. You got to have a come to Jesus meeting, like I say, and say, look, here's the deal. We haven't raised prices on you or for a while, which is probably the case, or we miscalculated the cost on this and we need to do an adjustment. I realize that you might want to go somewhere else if that's the case, but in order for us to continue to be your IT company, here's what we need to do. All right, now, so it's real clear if you're profitable, don't poke the bear. Not profitable, you need to poke it and poke it hard, right? And then you're going to have some that you're going to be like, well, we're not unprofitable, but we're not as profitable as we should be. Okay. Now, for those clients, I prefer, if we can do it, approach where we go to them and say we have to revisit the service, the statement of work, the package that you are on, the service package that we have put together for you. In most cases, what I find, if they're not profitable, in most cases is because they've been a client for a long time and you haven't elevated, you haven't revised the statement of work, you haven't revised the service offering for that client, right? There is a process you want to take, and essentially what you're doing is you're going back and saying, look, we haven't revisited our service offering in over 2 years with you, and we need to, because a lot has changed in the tool sets that we're using, the recommendations we have, in the risks that are out there, cybersecurity risks. There's a lot has changed. We got to sit down and revise that. And so you basically almost treat it like a new prospective customer, and you reevaluate and you requote and you go back in and say, hey, you're here. We need to move you from A to B, or really A to C, right? And you've got to propose and put a date on your contract saying, okay, this is our 2024 plan. And when you do that, when you put a date on, as I give Will Noble's credit, when you put a date on your agreement, 2 years from now, you can say, well, look, you're on our 2024 package. We have new 2026 packages that we just released and we've got to talk to you about. And really what we're talking about is proper account management, because if you're doing this on QBRs on a regular basis, you ought to be moving them up. But what happens with most MSPs is you sell them once, they're on some kind of an agreement, and you're just on autopilot and you haven't talked to them about anything in a year, in 2 years, in 3 years, all right? And those are the ones that you're going to have to go back and treat it almost like a new prospect, saying, hey, we've got a new service offering. We've got new things that we absolutely have to change because of cyber, because of risk, because of insurance, because of there's better ways of doing things, right? We've learned more. There's, new and improved. So you want to approach them to raise them up. And how hard you want to push, it really depends on a number of things. Like, I don't want to decimate your company. Like, I don't want you to go back to a client and, you demand they all raise their prices and you lose a bunch. And, although you could probably lose some, churn is not entirely bad, especially if you're churning low margin clients, right? But I also don't want to freak you out. So again, I'm for a very nuanced approach, not a flat across the board.